Welcome to Books versus Movies, the podcast where I set out to answer the age-old question, is the book really always better than the movie? I'm Yuvia, an actress and book lover based out of New York City, and today I will be counting down my top 10 favorite films of 2025 that I saw in theaters. Yes, so last year, my top 10 list of 2024 definitely... I did that because I didn't have any other way of keeping track of all the films that I saw throughout the year. And in 2025, I actually got a Letterboxd account with the intention of keeping track of everything that I saw that year and making a top 10 list of the top 10 least favorite and most favorite films that I saw in the entire year. And then I ended up watching 26 films in theaters. One of them I'm not including because it was a rewatch for me. It was a re-release of The Grinch that I watched on my birthday, so it didn't feel appropriate to include that one. So 25 new films in theaters, which is not that much, admittedly, but it's what I saw. And I was looking at my Letterboxd, and I guess I don't know. I'll think about how I want to do this next year, just because there's 140 films that I saw last year, and it's, I mean, I guess I can make my way through it, but I don't know. I decided to just stick with the films I saw in theaters just because it's easier to keep track of, I guess. So yeah, I'm just gonna stick to theaters for now, and then I don't know, maybe next year I'll do like full on what films are the best and worst that I saw in the year. But just like looking at this, it's a little overwhelming just looking at it. Just looking at my Letterboxd and seeing everything. And yeah, despite the ratings of some of the things that I gave, I don't know. So I'm just going to stick to what I saw in theaters. Anyway, let's go ahead and get started. So yes, I saw 26, but only including 25. Like I said, one of them was a re-release of the animated Grinch film, and I saw that on my birthday. So I just went through my AMC app, and I guess I technically saw, now that I remember, I did see 27 films in theaters. One of them I saw back home in El Paso with a friend of mine, and then another one was The Long Walk, which I got free tickets for. So I didn't include those just because they were not on my AMC app. I don't think having those on would change my top 10 and top least favorite films, honestly. So I'm just going to include those in my honorable mentions. So the 5 films that just kind of sat in between and did not make either of the list, I'll include the 2 that I saw. So in no particular order, as I said, I saw The Long Walk. Thunderbolts was in El Paso. And then the other 5 that are officially on my list of movies that I saw are The Bad Guys 2, Freakier Friday, Downton Abbey, the grand finale, Last Breath, and Fantastic Four: First Steps. So those 7 did not make either one of my lists. But let's go ahead and get started. So number 10, we have Wicked for Good. Yes, that is part 2 of the big Wicked extravaganza. I'm not going to offend Boshi this time around for not putting it at number 1. I think he understands this seems like huge musical theater lovers all agree that the second half of the Wicked musical is the weaker half, and what helps the musical is that the momentum of the first half keeps it going through to the second half. But to make another 2.5 hour long film, yeah, this was definitely not people's favorite. Even hardcore musical lovers did not love Wicked for Good as much as they loved Wicked Part 1. So I know I'm not going to offend him, but yeah, so Wicked for Good, second half of Wicked, Elphaba is fully in her Wicked witch era, and we get the introduction of Dorothy and the Tin Man, the Cowardly Lion, and the Scarecrow, and 2 new songs, No Place Like Home and The Girl in the Bubble, which is an awful song. Shout out to Moshi. So, yeah, I personally did not dislike it as much as I feel like a lot of people disliked it. Did it need to be 2.5 hours long? No, but I still feel that the first half didn't need to be 2.5 hours long. I like that we got some more character development in certain aspects. I will say the second half didn't make me feel as antsy as the first half, which is apparently very controversial, but it's the truth. And yeah, so that is number 10. Number 9, we have Predator Badlands. This is my first Predator film of any kind. I've never seen the original Predator films. I never saw Prey. So this was my first time watching any kind of Predator films. And I was surprised by how much I liked it. I had a really good time. This was kind of just there was nothing really else to watch, and I love going to the movies, and sometimes I'll just watch things because it sounds like the best thing to watch out of everything that's currently out, and that's kind of what happened with this one. But I'm glad I watched it. I mean, it's now in my top 10 favorite films of that I saw in 2025. So yeah, I really, really liked it, and I had a good time with it. Number 8, we have The Fire Inside, which is a biopic about Claressa Shields, who was the first American woman to win a gold medal at the Olympics for boxing. I believe it was boxing. But what I really liked about this biopic is that it didn't, she wins the gold medal and then it didn't just end there. We got to see her struggle that a lot of Olympic athletes face after they win the gold medal, which is what now? I won one of the most prestigious awards in sports that you can get, and my life hasn't changed at all. So, Claressa was expecting, she won a gold medal. She was expecting to be on cereal boxes. She was expecting to get brand deals. She was expecting her life to change for the better. She lived in Flint, Michigan. I don't know if she still lives there. And she grew up very, very poor. So she really was expecting, and a lot of people gave her the hope that her life would change drastically once she won this gold medal. And the fact of the matter is that it didn't. And that's something that happens to a lot of athletes that win gold medals, especially if it's not a more well-known sport, or they are a female in a more, what's recognized more as like a male sport. So yeah, so I really liked that we saw her win the gold medal, and we saw the struggles that came after winning the gold medal, and kind of just feeling like what was the point of me going to the Olympics if my life hasn't changed significantly? And then we see the choices she has to make. Like, does she want to continue pursuing this sport professionally? Like, does she want it, or does she just want to give it up because nothing changed? So I really liked it, and I had never heard of Claressa before, so I was happy to learn about someone I'd never heard about before. Number 7, we have Superman. So yeah, it's a little shocking for me to have a superhero film on my top 10 favorite films, but it's true. I really did like the Superman film. How much of that had to do with crypto? Probably a lot, but I really liked it. And I have superhero fatigue, y'all. Like, I'm over all the superhero films. I keep watching them because Orlando loves them, and I love Orlando, and I want to spend time with him. There's some that I'm just like, you got to watch that on your own, buddy. But there are still a few that I'm like, okay, like, I'll drag myself to go watch it with you. Again, Fantastic Four and Thunderbolts were other ones on that list. They didn't make my least favorite films, at least, but they were just in my didn't make it category. But Superman, yeah, I actually really, really liked this iteration of Superman. I will say I hated the Zack Snyder, Henry Cavill Superman. I watched like that series. Yeah, just hated that one. Hated it. So, and I haven't really seen any of like, I know the Brandon Routh one from the 2000s. That one's known to be terrible. Never saw that one. I've never seen the Christopher Reeve Supermans either. So my only impression of Superman was the Henry Cavill, Zack Snyder ones. Absolutely hated that with an absolute passion. Orlando got an earful because I saw that one when I was at the Masterworks Festival in 2013. And so I watched it without him, and I just, like, as soon as the movie was, I was the only one that didn't like it, and everyone else was talking about how good it was, and I was like, I need to talk to someone. I knew Orlando wouldn't judge me, and I knew it wouldn't affect his opinion of the film if I ranted to him about it, so I just, like, called him immediately and was like, this movie was so dumb, and here's why, and yeah, so, so, yeah, I there was really nowhere for this film to go but up, so, and I really, really enjoyed it. And a lot of it did have to do with crypto. But more than, I think it also helped that this Lois Lane was not the Amy Adams Lois Lane. I do not blame Amy Adams at all for her performance. The way her character was written was absolutely useless. Like, that is the most, whatever. She thinks she's more important than she is to the plot line. You could have written her out and wouldn't change the story. So hated the Amy Adams Lois Lane. Nothing to do with nothing to do with Amy Adams, all to do with the writing and the direction of that character. Oh, poor Amy Adams. She deserves so much better. Anyway, so it really helped that we had Rachel Brosnahan was such a good Lois Lane, and she was like feisty and sarcastic and just really delightful in that role. And I thought she had a really nice balance with David Cornsweet, and I know that their chemistry was off the charts, and that's one of the things that people talked about a lot with this film. But yeah, so Superman is my number 7 pick. Number 6 is Mickey 17. Yeah, so the Mickey 7 book is part of my least favorite reads of 2025, but Mickey 17 is one of my favorite films of 2025. I really, really enjoyed this one. And you can hear more of my thoughts about it on the actual episode of comparing Mickey 7 and Mickey 17, but I knew nothing about this film going in, and I kind of just chose it, and I was pleasantly surprised. And Robert Pattinson, just, he's such a good actor, and like just the way he could differentiate between all the Mickeys in existence while keeping, like, you can tell they're the same character, but the way he found to make them different at the same time. So even though you were watching Robert Pattinson on screen at the same time as essentially the same character, just a different iteration, the way you never got confused about who was who, like, that is such an accomplishment. Like, I'm just such in awe of what he was able to do with that character. And the supporting cast, I mean, Mark Ruffalo and Toni Collette are hilarious. Naomi Ackie as the love interest, she was great. Steve Yeun. It's a really, really great supporting cast, and it's actually a really fun, really great film. And again, the things that Bong Joon-ho can make you feel for creatures that are just CGI, like the way he can do that, it's fantastic. Nothing but good things to say about the film. Number 5, and I know this one's gonna be controversial because this film was critically panned. It universally panned, actually. Audiences didn't really like it either. But I really liked it, and it really spoke to me. And you know what? I don't care what anyone has to say. That's what films are supposed to do. My number 5 pick, and the fact that it's in the top 5, I'm getting really nervous about the film bros coming at me. But number 5 is The Woman in the Yard. So yes, this film was pretty much universally panned. It got awful critics' reviews, and, you know, sometimes awful critics' reviews, but good audience reviews. Nope, audiences didn't like it either. And a lot of people, I wonder if a lot of people just, the way Orlando and I interpreted it, it ended up speaking to us a lot. And I will say minor spoilers. I'm not going to give away completely what happens at the end, but I am going to hint at the possibility. I'm going to hint at what happens at the end. So if this is a film you're interested in watching, then skip on to the next film on this list. But I have to give this minor spoiler in order to talk about why it meant so much to me. So I don't know if critics as a whole or audiences as a whole were expecting this to be more of a horror film, like with scares and all of that, and just audience reactions that we heard, not just on the day that we watched it, but on other days we went to go watch other films, and we knew exactly what film people were talking about when we were exiting a film and someone was ranting about what they had just seen, and it was obvious from what they were saying that they had just watched The Woman in the Yard. So I'm wondering if people were just expecting more scares and it wasn't really scary, because it wasn't. I'm wondering if people just, it wasn't too cut and dry for them. I think this is a film that is open to a lot of interpretation. And the way Orlando and I interpreted this film was that The Woman in the Yard represents depression. At least that's how I interpreted it. I think Orlando interpreted it the same way. Or I don't know if his was more like just general mental health struggles. But I thought The Woman in the Yard represented depression, and the ending I thought was pretty clear the way you're supposed to interpret it, or I thought the ending was clear as to what the outcome was. And just a lot of people coming out were like, what the heck was that ending, blah, blah, blah. So maybe they just didn't interpret it that way, but I don't know. I thought The Woman in the Yard represented depression, and having gone through a very difficult period in my life, mental health wise, in 2023, it really spoke to me, and it really just the way that I reacted to it was just, yeah, it just spoke to me. And I mean, Danielle Deadwyler as the lead in that film was absolutely fantastic. I thought everyone in that film was fantastic, but yeah, the way it ended and everything, it just about broke me, and it just really spoke to me, having gone through that period in my life that I'm grateful I made it out of. So that's why this film spoke so much to me, and people hated on it. Like I said, it was universally panned. Everyone thought that this was a really awful horror film, but it spoke to me, and that's what films are supposed to do. So do not come at me. Number 4 is Elio. So Elio was this year's Disney Pixar release, and it follows a little boy who lives with his aunt. He is an orphan, and he lives with his aunt, and they're just having a hard time adjusting to the fact that she is now his legal guardian. He's having a hard time adjusting to the fact that his aunt is now his primary caregiver. And he feels like she doesn't really like him very much, or that he's burdening her too much. And he dreams of going of traveling to outer space and living with aliens and yeah, it's a really, really, I thought it was a really, really sweet film. It didn't do well in the box office. It was actually kind of a box office flop. Most people didn't even know that it had come out. So when I had TikTok, I used to follow a creator called Dapper Manatee, and he used to work in Disney back in the day. So a lot of his content is Disney based, and so he has a theory that I think makes absolutely makes sense, and his conspiracy theory as to why Disney isn't really promoting their films anymore. Because if you think it, there are like some select films that they promote really, really like hardcore, and it's obvious they want that one to be like the number one box office film, and then there's others that they kind of just ignore, Elio being one of them. And so his conspiracy theory is that Disney doesn't really care if their films make money at the box office. They probably would rather not make that they would probably rather prefer that their film not make money at the box office. I don't know why that was so hard to say, because if they have to make, unless they're like guaranteed a box office smash hit, they have to share part of those proceeds with the movie theaters. So if it's not a box office success, they don't have to share as much money with the movie theaters. And then once it releases in Disney Plus, all the streams they get from those films goes to just them. And if you think about it, a lot of the last few films that have been Disney or Pixar have not been marketed well at all. But if you look at their streaming numbers, they do great on Disney Plus. So his conspiracy theory is that Disney's not really promoting their films anymore. They don't really care if they're a box office success, because word of mouth will get those numbers, will give them great streaming numbers. And if their streaming numbers are up, then all the money goes to them exclusively. They don't need to share anything with the box office. So I think that conspiracy theory makes absolute sense. If you haven't watched Elio, check it out on streaming, because it is worth streaming. It's a really, really sweet film, and it made me really sad that it was not a box office hit. But once I watched his video, I was like, that makes sense for Disney, honestly. Number 3, we have Zootopia 2. I absolutely loved this film. I saw it twice in theaters, almost saw it a third time when I was in El Paso visiting my family, but it was always sold out. Or close to selling out. So we were never able to go. My mom really wanted to go watch it. And I was like, I don't mind watching it a third time. But I actually really, really liked this film. I saw it the first time by myself, and then I ended up taking Orlando to go watch it because I was like, you need to watch this. And this is a sequel that definitely deserves existing. It added on to the story. It's different enough where it doesn't feel like, what's the point of this existing other than giving me box numbers, whatever. So I really, really, this was such a good film. This was so good. I have nothing but good things to say about it. It continues on with the tradition of the first one, in which it has an important political message without feeling like you're watching an important political message. It's done in a way where kids can understand it. And yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, it's sad that a kid's film has more compassion than, what's actually going on in the world. But that's not the point. And if you're like, well, if it's a political message, I don't want to watch it, just watch it. Like I said, it's not slamming you on the head with it, but it's there. So it's really, really good. It's so funny. The little Easter eggs, the nods, not just to other Disney films, but to just other films. It's so funny. And there's just two speeches given by Nick and Judy when they're trying to work out some of the issues they've been butting heads about. And I'm just like, yep, I can relate to those speeches as well. But I highly recommend Zootopia 2. So good. Number 2 is Weapons. This film was so scary. We went to go watch this as an apartment family. So Orlando, my roommate, and I all went to go watch together. And I was sitting in the middle. So I had the nice seat because my roommate was leaning on me for comfort. And then Orlando was also leaning to me because it was scary. There was it wasn't jump scary. I hate that kind of horror movie, honestly. This was just the tension of oh my gosh, what's gonna happen? Okay, we're okay for now, we're okay. And then just some if you've seen the film, you know which character is the absolute scariest character to see. Ooh, she's scary. Yeah. So I thought it was really well done, really well made, intelligent in terms of like I said, I hate when characters do dumb decisions just because they're in a horror movie. Kind of like the parody of that Geico commercial. I hate that. This was not like that. This is just so tense, so scary. There is blood and gore. So I do want to, if you can't handle it, I can't handle it. it wasn't like to the point where it was like, I don't want to look at all, but it is kind of like one or two scenes in particular. It's like, okay, got to close my eyes for a little bit. This is a little too gross. But overall, really good, really well made, really spooky, really scary. The acting from everyone, just so good. And my number one film that I saw in theaters in 2025 was Sinners. Sinners with Michael B. Jordan, Haley Steinfeld. So good. It's such a unique take on the vampire genre. I mean, come on, like, the acting was incredible. Just like, oh my goodness, the sequences in which there's like it's not a musical, but there are like a few musical sequences, and they're just so beautifully shot. I mean, it's wow, like Ryan Coogler did such a good job writing and directing this film. Like, I'm just still so in awe of like those musical moments. Yeah, like you just, this film wasn't scary, and I don't think it necessarily had to be, but yeah, it's just it's a new interpretation of the vampire genre that I hadn't seen before, but I really liked it. It's just so good. And like I said, the cinematography, the way the things were shot, like, it's just beautiful to look at. And the way they incorporated like the traditional Irish music with like the traditional blues music, and it's like just such a really cool contrast. I don't know, it's so good, and the acting is fantastic, the direction, the writing, the cinematography, everything is fantastic. I have nothing but good things to say about Sinners, and that, I mean, I think it's very worthy of being the number one film on my list. But let me know what you think. Let me know what were your favorite films that you saw in theaters. If you don't see that many films in theaters, let me know what your favorite films that you saw overall were. And stay tuned, because next week I will be counting down my top 10 least favorite films that I saw in theaters in 2025. Bye.